So, okay, we are going to start with a video. So, if we can't adjust the volume, unfortunately, it's as loud as it's going to get. So, either bend forward or come forward.
Hello, my name is Angie and I work with Colorado Department of Human Services.
My name is Omar Estrada and I work for the Colorado Department of Education.
My name is Amber Woodside and I work for Charlotte County Public Health and Environment. My name is Sedona Allen. I am a youth advisor at Federal Public Health.
I'm Alexander Cooper and I work for the Department of Human Services.
Hi, I'm Ruby Black and I worked for the Eagle River Youth Coalition up in Del, Colorado.
I'm sitting here with Gonzo Salas at Denver Public Health. My name is Catherine Harvey and I work for the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment.
I'm Sarah Holmes and I work at the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment.
My name is Jocelyn Hernandez and I work for the Department of Human Services and the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment.
Hello, my name is Starza Snelling and I am a youth partner at Rise Above Colorado.
Why is youth engagement important?
Youth engagement is important. In the workforce or just in general?
Youth are the future of America.
It's extremely important to have that perspective.
Just that voice of being heard of.
Nothing without us, without us.
You want to try and advance it? Mm-mm.
Okay, well, while we figure that out, is the microphone working? Can you all hear me? Okay, perfect. Hi, everyone. I'm Catherine Harvey. My pronouns are she and hers, and I'm a youth advisor, Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. You just saw all of the youth advisors who helped co-create this presentation for you, so that's not just my voice talking to you all. It's all of theirs as well. And this is...
And I'm Audra Bishop. I'm the State Adolescent Health Coordinator in Colorado. And today, the only purpose I serve is to be Catherine's backup dancer. And so she's going to direct me what to do and where to be.
Perfect. Next slide.
Exactly.
Okay, so first of all, we want you all to talk around your tables and just take a few minutes to talk about your name, where you're from, what you do, and mainly what you're hoping to get out of this presentation, because I'll bring us all back together. I just want you all to shout out a little bit about what it is you want out of this so we make sure we're actually addressing why you're in this room to begin with. So, go. Okay, please wrap up those last few introductions. And I just want to hear from a few people within the audience of why are you here and what are you hoping to get out of this?
This is a participatory event.
It's a
I'm Noel from Hawaii. Our management is pushing the adolescent health area to create a youth council or find youth councils within the state to work with to give us more information on what they want or what they need.
Awesome.
That is so nice to hear that administration is pushing.
Yep.
Good problem to have.
But no money.
Awesome. What else?
Yeah, my name is Amy. I'm from Central Jersey Family Health Consortium in New Jersey, and part of our prep grant is now mandating that we have a youth advisory board for the central part of, well, northern, central, and southern part of the state. We're all going to join together on the central part, join together to have one big whole youth advisory board for the state. So, trying to figure out how to get this all rolling and everything else. So.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
I was going to add, I'm from Michigan, and one of our federal grants, our telehealth project, we went into our work plan, the involvement of a youth consultant, a youth advisor, and prior to my arrival, they had attempted at doing that, just didn't do it very well, and so 4 years later, in my position and my team were trying it again, and hoping to do it right this time, to sustain that involvement.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
So I'm the family delegate for the Minnesota Title V Children Legal for Social Applications program, and I also represent the Voices of Minnesota. And I have a friend and a colleague who was actually the recipient of the Ryan Colburn Scholarship.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah.
Since mine's slightly different from what's already been presented, I would like to add it to the table. The State of Florida Children's Special Healthcare Needs Program want to start youth councils for healthcare transition. And we want to do it from a statewide and also regional perspective.
Awesome. Cool. So what I'm hearing is there's like a lot of stuff about youth advisory councils and boards in specific, right? And so, so the youth advisor model is specifically for employment for young people, but what's perfect is that with you all in the room who are specifically here to learn about what you can do with your advisory councils and advisory boards is a lot of the same stuff that youth advisors need in a workplace is going to be the same stuff that all young people, including ones that are on advisory councils, are going to need to be able to feel like their voice is actually being heard and they're not just being tokenized. And so I'll make sure that we sort of get a little bit more of a focus on young people that you're not just bringing on as employees, but are sort of there as temporary people or who don't work as many hours as a youth advisor might. And then for the hiring consultants, that's super awesome and you're in the exact right place for that. So thank you, everybody. Bye.
I'm like slacking on my job.
Okay. So just to give you a basic idea of what this is going to look like is I originally divided this session out into 3 different hours, starting with 1, what is a youth advisor in the first place and what do we mean when we're specifically talking about the youth advisor model? 2, how do you prepare the workplace to be able to be friendly to young people when they're brought on, and how are you going to be able to retain them so that they don't just get there and say, wow, this is not youth friendly at all, I quit, I'm done. And then hour 3 is a little bit more about the logistics of hiring and onboarding and actually getting the young person into the office. Hours 2 and 3 are going to blend into each other a little bit, just so you know. We're going to have 2 breaks, and I think that's everything. I think that's all I want to tell you. Okay, so part 1, what is a youth advisor? I just really like this comic. That's literally why it's there. Okay, next slide. So first of all, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, and hopefully this is the reason why, again, everybody is already in the room, is that you know why youth engagement is important and necessary. So I just want you all to popcorn for like 2 or 3 minutes, just ideas about why is youth engagement and youth involvement with your programs and practices necessary. Go. Yeah, go. Not, yeah, sorry, big group, so that Audra can help record these. Yeah.
These are the individuals that our Entitled Chapter program serve. They're going to be moms, the children with special healthcare needs, the population.
Right. Yeah, so these are the people we serve. What else?
They have great insight.
We have great insight. Thank you. Yes. Yeah.
I think the world that a lot of people that are in programs go back to their positions, what the world was like when myself and others grew up is pretty darn different than the world that people are growing up in now. So I just can't imagine that the ideas we come up with would make any sense.
Right.
So I mean, I think I like nothing about us without us, but I think that also because I don't think we're on different planets sometimes.
Right, so there's a big generation gap, and yeah, and so we want ideas of and practices that are going to actually be informed by people who know what will work and what won't. Anything else? Yeah.
Well, just selfishly, I need to learn. Right? I mean, I need to grow and learn and progress, and who better to teach me that?
Awesome, I love that. Yeah, so learning from young people who you bring in. Cool. Okay. While Audra's finishing writing that, I asked the same question of youth advisors of why they thought youth engagement was important, and these are their responses.
You need young people in your workplace because you can't really do anything about us without us. We're the experts of the youth culture. And we're the ones that you want at that table. Those typically adult center tables, there needs to be young people present. For them to be able to be the experts of their community and of their culture.
Yes, adults generally have more knowledge on certain things and more wisdom, but who knows better about the current youth than current youth?
We're a brand new youth, and our generation is changing. This 21st century is required to know what youth is.
A lot of the people that were trying to help the youth in general weren't actually talking to people or the target population that they wanted to impact. Yeah, we're going to think that they want this and go with it, where it's kind of, no, we want something in the totally opposite direction.
Especially the Department of Education, our end goal is to help every student in Colorado, a student being the young people of Colorado as well. To have someone like myself in a youth advisor or a youth liaison position to help put youth voice in the work that we do, which will ultimately help students in the future, it's extremely important to have that perspective and extremely important to be able to know how to work with young people.
By not getting their input is just setting your organizations up for failure. They are the ones who know what's going on in their schools and in their communities. So it gives you a new perspective beyond like what you can see as a person.
And not only is one young person important, you need a group of them. The more the better. If your room looks equal, half and half among a diverse population, the better ideas you're going to get, regardless of if it's young people, adults, different ethnicities, different genders. You need as much of a variety as you can.
Not all of us come from the same backgrounds and we don't all have the same experiences. For example, you all notice that currently I am standing in a corral in the middle of the mountains in Colorado. There's a donkey. Villagers who don't have the backgrounds of coming from a rural location are going to have some very different experiences than mine. We're going to have a lot of similarities as well, but it's important to recruit a wide variety of young people that you're going to work with.
Yay! I hope you liked my donkey. So this is Colorado's Youth Engagement Continuum. It is totally ripped off from our Community Engagement Continuum. It literally just says youth instead of community members. So this is actually in your perfect little packets that I made for you. It's on page 3, so please don't read this right now. But all you need to know is that we have like different frames for what we consider different levels of youth engagement to be. So over here with participation, it's literally just like giving information to young people about what services you're providing or having like one-time focus groups. And then over here on the other side is you're talking about actually sharing leadership with young people. And so we're having equal decision making and we have equal authority with the adults in the room. So the youth advisor model, can you go and switch things? So the youth advisor model is supposed to be over here with shared leadership and shared partnership where we have the same authority as any adult who is on our immediate team. So for example, that's my coworker, Lauren, and we're on the same team. We're both supervised by Audra, and so we have the same authority. We get the same resources. I can do the same things as Lauren. I can check out a state car. I can come to this conference, right? Like any time that I speak up in a room and that we're having some sort of vote on what our team should be doing, my voice is going to be the same as Lawrence's. However, that's not always going to be the case in where I'm working as a youth advisor. Sometimes, like I have these office hours that I host that people at our department who are doing programs that impact young people but don't necessarily have any young people that they usually talk to. They can come in and ask me about how do I get connected with like different youth advisory boards? What do young people think about this? What social media are youth using right now that I can get them on? And so in that case, I'm not actually making a decision on their behalf, and I might not even have like ongoing communication with that person. They just come in, they have a question, and I give feedback. So sometimes I'm over here with consulting. And then other times, like I was asked to sit on an advisory board for school-based health centers. And so in that case, I'm still not actually making the decision, but along with the other adults who sat on the advisory council, I'm getting to make input onto what I think the decision should be. So I still have a much higher level of power than I did over here at Consult, but it's still not over here where I am with my immediate team and the usual work that I'm doing. And so basically the youth advisor model, it was set up so that there is a way to actually equitably share partnerships with young people in state agencies, but my work is also like over here a lot. And then just to make it a little bit more clear what we're talking about when we're talking about a youth advisor, I made this little table for you. And so what I talk about when I talk about capital Y, capital A youth advisor is that it's a paid employee in your organization or agency, and our job is to help improve the programs and the practices that are affecting young people. And that means that I'm working a certain number of hours per week. This is not necessarily a youth advisory council position where you might be sitting there in meetings for maybe 5 hours out of the month, right? Instead, I work 24 hours a week, and I'm constantly there during the normal workday so that adults can come in and talk to me if they're not willing to go and meet young people, and we can usually be met like after work hours on a weekend. And again, I'm being treated as an expert on youth culture. I have expertise because of my lived experiences that adults like Audra can tap into to, again, improve these programs and practices. So what a youth advisor is not, it's not somebody that you hire to give yourself a pat on the back and make copies for you or bring you coffee. And it's not an unpaid position, and it's not something where you feel like you're bringing in this young person and you're giving them all these skills that they don't already have. There's going to be a component of skill development, but you're hiring the young person because they have expertise in youth culture. Is there any sort of questions about what I talk about when I talk about a youth advisor? Cool.
Okay, so history and background. This is one of my very few parts. I'm very excited about this. Okay. So where did it come from? We have had an advisory council for 18 years. It was started in 2000. It's funded by Maternal and Child Health, and since over the last, I think, 5 or so years, we've actually blended funding from other funding sources that rely heavily. So our marijuana tax dollars offset some of the costs, as well as our tobacco tax dollars. And we realized that we were excited for the advisory council, and we were like, okay, great, come to a Saturday meeting, get their feedback. And then there's the adults who are the champions. My guess is it would be all of you in this room to say, yes, I'll come on a Saturday. That sounds amazing, to go talk to the youths. And it was only the choir that would come to, or contractors, that would come on a Saturday meeting. And so my former supervisor, who some of you may know, Anne-Marie Braga, she had this vision that, and she says this all the time, that young people were walking the hallways with the same color badges as us, because we have a weird color coding system for temporary employees and whatnot. And so we started knocking on the door, and I'll talk about getting leadership buy-in in a little bit, but I think we tried for about 7 years. She passed that vision to me as she moved into different roles and responsibilities. And we were really strategic at times when we got a new leader in who was talking about innovation and wanting to make government more corporate in the sense of like how we were efficient and elegant and all those things. And so we had planned a great meeting with this new leader who was asking for innovation, and we sat down. It was like a 30-minute meeting that we had planned every second of that meeting with data and evidence-based statements. And we said, we'd like to hire young people as, at the time, temporary employees. That is all we had to say. This is how innovative he wanted to be. He just slammed his hand down on the table and goes, hell yeah! And so we just kind of look at each other. We're like, are we done? Do you need any more information? He's like, no, go for it. Tell me how it goes. So that was the next step from the advisory council to hiring 9, they called themselves the first 9 youth interns. Well, at the time for our state government, we had not interns, 9 temporary employees. Temporary employee was 6 months long. So we were really excited to get these young people in, but we really quickly realized that the moment they got in, their countdown started. So by the time their 6 months was over, we had hardly built their capacity to be public health employees, let alone do the work that we needed them to do. And so that led us to this iteration of a youth advisor model where we hired young people as term limited employees. And the first year it was 2 years. Now it's 3 years. So we have young people for 3 years, and we had to get around our personnel administration. I was in an equity presentation this morning, and they talked about just asking questions, so that we can start thinking outside of the box. And we were told, we said, we'd like to hire young people as state employees somewhere between the ages of 16 and 21, and they said, well, you can't do that. And so we just wanted to know why. So we said, why? And they said, well, you just can't. Well, being a parent, I make those statements when I have no answer. And so we pushed and we said, well, why can't we? Well, basically the answer was it had never been done. And so we're like, okay, well, that's the reason. We can figure it out. So we just had to make sure that our job description was stated in a way that it wasn't moving towards discrimination. So we couldn't say we are only hiring young people between the ages of 16 and 21, because that's age discrimination. We said we highly encourage young people between the ages of 16 and 21 apply. And then we were able to weed out through the answers that they gave on their application who was grown and was trying to get a job for a young person and who was actually a young person. So that's the history and background of us.
So to give you a visual depiction of what this looked like, it started out where there was no one. And then, this is NCAM and Leslie, and they were hired first. They were the first two capital Y, capital A youth advisors. And then because of them, suddenly all of these other adults start going, this is such a great idea, and I think we should replicate this position. So suddenly nonprofits, other state agencies, and community organizations decided to start hiring. And then it continued to balloon out, and so some young people, like myself, there's me and my buddy Sam, we replaced NCAM and Leslie because they got old and we were young. And then it just kept continuing. So there's still new youth advisors who are getting hired, and this is actually only a portion of all of the faces who have served as youth advisors in Colorado at some time during the past 5 years. And like I said, there's still new ones being hired every day, and people come up to me and ask me a lot about how do I get a young person into my office? This is why I made this presentation. So to give you a taste of what youth advisors in Colorado are doing, this is the video of Sedona Allen, who works at Denver Public Health, and she made this for you all to be able to see some of the projects that she works on daily and some of the accomplishments that she's had.
My name is Sedona Allen. I am
It's a little quiet and then it gets louder, but you can come up if you can't hear.
and just actually passed my 2-year anniversary working for Denver Health. It's been really an amazing opportunity to seek out ways that I can bring my own passion and my own creativity and unique styles to social change. Being a young person in Denver, it has been really great to work hand in hand with other young people on issues around healthy eating, active living, and tobacco usage, all within a lens of social justice and health equity. I think these are really important issues that we can tap into and make meaningful change in through projects, through community gatherings, even through just unity with young people coming together and having their voices be heard. Creating those spaces where we can share our voice and elevate each other's voice is so important. And I'm really grateful that I've been able to facilitate a youth coalition called PhD Youth Team. It stands for Public Health Denver Youth Team. We've really done a lot for these past 2 years together.
Let me see if I can skip ahead to that. Oh, that's smart.
Brilliant.
What about that?
It stands for Public Health Denver.
Is that helpful? No.
No? Okay. Do you want to summarize?
Yes. Well, actually, I don't know if I can summarize this here. I'll just click around and you can see some of the stuff. So Sedona, she's standing in front of a mural where she got a whole bunch of community organizations, and local public health partners to come together, and she got community members to help make this mural all about access to opportunities to be able to be healthy. And so that's mental health and physical health and nutrition and all of that. And so she helped create this really beautiful mural, and she was the person who designed all of this, and was the person who convened everybody else. She had some other stuff, I don't remember what it was. She's done all of these presentations on data. Denver Public Health just released this community data assessment that they did with a whole bunch of young people, and Sedona was a big part of that. And so presenting how young people can sort of look at the data in their communities and then do something with the data that we constantly ask young people to give us, and then we never give it back to them. Since that one didn't work. That was real loud. Go away. Since this video, oh my goodness. Sorry, friends. I can't.
Did we mess with it? Will you talk?
Hold on. Okay, since that video didn't work out, I'm gonna play one that will hopefully be louder that you'll be able to hear. That it's not working out for my life. Yeah, can you make it present again? Sorry that the video didn't work out. I do have another one of other people talking about their projects that we're gonna see if we can make it work or not. But while we're doing that, I'll talk to you about work plans and how exactly.
One of the big projects that we're working on.
I'll try and make it bigger.
Youth is called Photo Voice, and what we're having kids do is go around their community.
Or not. I don't know. Does anybody know? Participation? Where is view? To the left. Oh, nice. Brilliant.
There we go.
Thanks, friends.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, that's the beginning, though, I think.
Yeah, no.
Oh, no, good.
Okay, can you enlarge it, Audra?
One of the big projects that we're working on that involves youth is called Photo Voice. And what we're having kids do is go around their community and take pictures of things that help them make good choices and things that kind of influence them to make bad choices. And so the purpose of that is to give adults a visual picture of what kids see in their community and just their perspective on how they live and how they're influenced to make decisions.
So me and Alex are both on a committee called Colorado 9 to 25, which serves youth the ages from 9 to 25. It is separated into adults and youth. And so what me and Alex had the opportunity to do is recruit other youth to join the committee. And what we also got to do is we got to facilitate it ourselves and kind of give like a youth perspective and provide that youth voice on what Colorado 925 is to get youth interested in joining the committee with us.
As a success as one of the project is, the youth that we present to are actually wanting to be a part of 925 as a whole. And as we can show as youth can be successful.
One of the projects that I've worked on in the past was to build a resource map, a behavioral health resource map for Project Aware Colorado. And the reason we had to do that was we wanted to make sure that our grantees, the 3 school districts that we worked with, were using evidence-based programs and interventions for their students. My role in that was to research all the programs, ended up being something like 100, 150 programs, making sure that they were on some sort of national registry and be able to present the information, all of the programs that made it through my review, and present it in a way that made it easy to pick and choose from a large amount of programs. Being able to do that allowed me to be qualified for the current position that I am in as the Marijuana Resource Bank Specialist. It's sort of the same issue, getting resources that deal with marijuana use or substance use among our youth, and putting it in one spot and making it easy for the educators in Colorado to use it with ease.
I work tightly with our Youth Leaders Coalition, which is a group made up of about 30 to 40 high schoolers from every high school in our community. Through that, we met once a month and we focused on subjects and interests that were going on in the community. So things about how do we prevent drug and alcohol abuse in our schools, and getting their feedback on that. Just the diverse community of those high schoolers were able to really solve those types of problems from what they saw versus just adults peering into the schools and being like, oh, well, you know, this is what we think we see as the problem. But the youth being like, no, actually, that's not the problem. This is the problem, and here's how we can fix it. And then just adults to really taking that feedback and doing things about it. A campaign went around in one of our middle schools led by a middle school intern, and she was able to make a difference by talking about bullying. Her focus wasn't on stop bullying, it was on making friends. So it's just flipping that point of view that adults don't really think about.
The projects I've been working on, the main one I've been working on, 2-in-1 with Mile High United Way, a free resource system where people can call in and get resources on pretty much anything out there. So it could be like birth control, housing, schooling, tuition. And what they're having me do is go out and test the different ways of actually going out and like using their system. So it could be like phone call, text message, web chat, web search, you know, actually going to two-in-one themselves and asking. The other one was we actually look upon different grants and provide youth feedback on the grants. So one of them I provided feedback on was, should like the Denver Public Schools be inputting health programs for people with special needs, or like say autism, the autism spectrum. You can read through the lines and see, you know, it's kind of okay, they're really trying to hit on the youth aspect here, or you could see it's kind of, nah, they're just really trying to make themselves look good. It's all for show, basically.
Cool. Can you go one slide back, Audra?
Mm-hmm. Oh, man. I got you. I know now. Thank you.
Okay, then you can click on it once.
Oh.
Okay, so the way that we set up my work plan for the projects that I work on is basically we have these 3 buckets. And one of them is giving feedback, so that is to adults. So that's, for example, when I hold those office hours that I talked about, and adults can come in and ask me about youth engagement or how they talk to young people, period. That's like one of my tasks that's under this giving feedback bucket. Getting feedback is going to other young people around the state and to like the other youth advisors that you saw, because again, I'm one human and I can't just be the voice for all of the young people in Colorado ever, right? And so an example of a project that I'm doing for that is a digital storytelling project with our equivalent of the YRBS survey data for our state. And we're making these videos that are going to be taking the stories of different young people around the state that we can sort of help illuminate with the data that we've taken, and then that's going to make a more compelling state for people like state legislators or even any other public health partners that we work with, like both internal and external, so that they feel like they can walk away and not have just like been handed a really boring pamphlet and they just go, oh, well, that's really bad that youth suicide has gone up, right? And then there's also the professional development bucket, which is, I think it's 10% of my official work plan. And so that's where the skills development sort of comes in of what I need to continue to become more competent and effective in my job. So this year, we call it my mastery goal, has been in self-advocacy and assertiveness, because I'm not very assertive. And so I can go to trainings and I can go to conferences and I can work with other youth advisors in any sort of way that's helping enhance those skills that I need to be able to speak up in a room that's full of adults when I'm scared and I'm nervous and I feel like I don't know what I'm doing, and that's the time that I need to speak up, and I feel like I can get better at that. So what I'm going to have you all do now, this is an interactive session, and you better believe it, is there's 3 sticky notes that are up around the room. They're all the exact same. There's one there, there, and there. And I want you all to just sort of separate yourself out into 3 groups, 1 at each sticky note. And for about 3 or 4 minutes, you're going to individually and silently just be writing down little sticky notes that are at your tables, all the ideas you have for projects that could go into either one of those buckets. So like I just gave you ideas of those projects, you just saw people talking about some of the projects they work on. I want you to brainstorm for your organization or agency stuff that your youth advisors could work on. And then we're going to bring it back to a group discussion. Are there any questions? Cool. Sticky notes are on your table. Let me know if you need any pens. Go. I will help you. Okay. What would be an example of a way to get a person to give feedback? Vehicle for feedback or content? Like vehicle. Like what is like a program or something that you would want someone
Here are some, and here are some of them that were listed. So some of you mentioned you had grant requirements for an advisory board. So thinking about how could you advisor plug into whatever that grant funding is for.
Okay.
So what are those projects that you would need to get feedback on, or have them collect feedback from other young people to drop into? Does that make sense?
So content, like Eureka versus writing on a post-it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like the content, like feedback on like, yeah, I'm trying for Zika versus like come to our meetings, like method or content. That's what I'm not sure.
Why don't we actually start on it?
Yeah.
No, this is good. So, okay, give me some examples. So you said,
So are you saying like, so giving feedback to us from you, are you saying that this is like you can tell us about, okay, this visual for getting your flu vaccine looks ugly? Or are you saying I should invite you to the meeting, like so that they can discuss it? Like I don't.
So we're not saying should anything, so you remember that continuum, and you have it in your book too.
Right.
So on the consult side, that was on this side, it would be bringing your flyer on immunizations to say, does this suck or does it great?
Yeah.
And then, as you move over here, it would be, we have no idea what to create. We don't want to spend money on creating something wrong, so help us create it. Things like that.
So, yeah.
So I'm just wondering, because some of mine that I'm thinking of, depending on where we're at within say development or implementation, it could be like either or. It can move around from maybe first we get feedback from the users, and then once it's going, then they give us, implementation feedback.
Yeah, and I feel like you can put both of those things out there.
You know what I'm saying? Like we need to, maybe the student focus group, and so they're getting feedback from the users to help us, use the act and everything, and now we're in action. So then maybe now they're giving us feedback of, actually what happened and what was useful.
Yeah, and so one of the goals of this particular activity, why Catherine created it, was so that it builds this energy. You're brainstorming these ideas here, because what happens with youth engagement or anything that we go to at a conference, we're like, oh, I have all these great ideas, and then we walk out and we get back to our regular job and we never remember any of that stuff. And so you're slowly building an action plan, so by the time you leave, you have a clear picture of what to do. As specific as you want to get, this is to inform your work. No, so it's just to inform you. Yeah. Are you guys at a place to chat about that? Okay. Okay. So we're going to switch things up a little bit. Oh, but now people are talking real well. Okay, I'm still going to switch things up real quick. Okay, so that we have collective thought power, I'm going to walk around and read some stickies, and then we can make those ideas even more clear or bigger than maybe what we thought before. So this is where you guys can chime in. So I'm going to squeeze behind you just really. You don't have to move at all. Okay, so over here, giving feedback, we have how adults in the community can help, issues that matter to them with question marks. So who wrote this one, can I ask? And so what were you thinking when you wrote this?
What is the importance of having a youth leader for working on issues that don't matter to them? So I think the first step would be to figure out what issues matter.
Yep.
And then how adults can support the youth in taking care of those issues.
In creating the solutions. That's awesome. So tap into the youth advisor to come up with what the ideas are in general. That's good. So this one says, give feedback on adolescent health research agenda. Ooh, tell me more about this one.
So I work at the University of Minnesota with a lot of adolescent health researchers, and there's even federal grants that describe what kind of research adolescent health should do. And rarely are the perspectives of young people included in setting what that agenda actually looks like. So I think that would be a really interesting collaboration for young people's perspectives to help inform what the PhD and the research community is doing.
Love that. I might steal that. Here. Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry. Give feedback on adolescent health research agenda.
Thank you.
Okay, that was simple. Sorry. Surveys and webinars. Like having them do surveys and webinars, having them create them.
Probably a little bit of both.
Both? Nice. Okay. Do you have any ideas on what surveys and webinars?
Well, I think that's just a method you could use if you were thinking statewide and how to engage youth from all different, whether they're living in urban areas, rural areas, what kind of, issues that are affecting health equity, So I just think you could develop those things so that you could get good feedback and actually utilize it for the programs or issues that you want to pursue.
That's great.
First step.
And the reason I ask is because a lot of times what we find, and Catherine just had this experience actually like a week ago, is we adults have these great ideas. We're like, oh, let's create a webinar, or let's pull together. We love webinars. But let's pull together this collaborative for youth advisors. So all the supervisors of youth advisors. So then we pipe in and say, hey, you should probably have youth advisors there. And they're like, that's a great idea. Okay. So they invite youth advisors, and the youth advisors are going, this meeting sucks. Like, there is no point to the meeting. You have no purpose. What do you want? They can't give feedback. I'm saying all this so Catherine doesn't look like the bad guy. I'm the bad guy. So then we say, hey, maybe you should have a youth advisor plan, help plan. That was what I said. Help plan your meeting. And they said, okay, great. And they gave the youth advisors the whole meeting and said, go and do it. But guess what? There was no purpose for the meeting. There was no purpose for the collaborative because they were so lost in that. And they said, Catherine, go, that'd be great. So as adults, we really have to make sure that we're clear on what the heck our ask is. And if we're not clear on what our ask is, partnering with a young person to say, I have no idea what I'm doing. Can you please help me figure that out? So whatever we're creating or doing is mutually beneficial, right? So we'll share some of those lovely lessons learned too. Ask about teen health surveillance questions and data presentations. Are they pertinent to young people? Do they reflect how they feel about their own? Do they reflect how they feel about their own health? Ooh, that's a good one. Who wrote that? Ooh, do you want to say any more about that?
Yeah. So we are fortunate enough that we've deviated from the YRBS, and we have our own survey. But some of the questions are just worded in very aged questions, and in some of the data that we collect and present, we just I don't know if it's pertinent, some of the questions might not really reflect how students or youth feel about what's going on in their schools or in their environment, and just the way we frame those questions, I think, needs a lot of work.
Yeah, I love that perspective. We actually had one of our representatives from bullying and suicide, our staff for the maternal and child health priority. They went to our youth advisory council, and one of the things that they found out that I would have never known, and I like to think I'm cool for about 2 seconds, and then I go, oh yeah, I'm so out of date. But they said, we don't actually think about bullying as you think about bullying. Our issues are racism and homophobia, and we would not say that those are bullying. So when you say bullying, we do not think of the issues that actually face us. And so I was like, holy crap balls, really? Like that shifts how we do all of our work. And if we're doing suicide and bullying work, how do we begin to at least have some kind of translation to what they do instead of being like, well, the feds are funding us to doing bullying and suicide work, so we need to do bullying and suicide work, right? And so really then pushing back and leading up to the people who are defining and refining our work. Yeah.
And can I just jump on that too, to add, like, getting informed on how we do the demographics on that stuff? Do you know what I mean? Around race and ethnicity, or around sexual identity or gender identity? I mean, that's all, we are fumbling the ball. Yes, on those fronts.
I agree.
One of the things that I struggle with when I'm thinking about this is kind of the timing when you're truly partnering with youth. To go and make the brochure and say, hey, what do you guys think of this? Doesn't seem like really partnership. It seems like you're checking the boxes that the kids like this. But I think the real struggle for me is how do you get youth engaged at a point and a level where it's at that decision making, I mean, from the inception and the design and the planning phase rather than just the implementation.
Yep. So I think that's why we have that continuum, right? Because not everybody has the time, capacity, and resources to hire a young person to do that. So they create the flyer, and then they go to an advisory council, or whether it's theirs or some communities or the states even. But it's also always looking out and looking farther. And I also think that youth engagement, and Catherine, please correct me if you think if you don't agree with me at all, but I don't think there's ever a right time. And it's funny, when my husband, we got pregnant, not trying with my first, or my second actually, so just FYI. Note, make note. And he tells his friends, when his friends were like, what, you're having a baby? You know, like all his friends, none of his friends have babies. And he was like, there is never a perfect time, right? To have a child or get married or to move out of the country or move out of the state. Like, there's never a perfect time for anything. And I feel like that's the same as youth engagement. Like, you just have to take a step. Yeah, or sometimes take a leap, right? And just do it. And so if you can find a project that you're maybe applying for right now, that the funding would come in for a year, you have so much time to lay that groundwork for true partnership, but you have to take the time to lay the groundwork. So I don't know where we are on time. Does anybody have something on the sticky board, whatever that's called, that they want to call out and maybe share an idea that they have or they want to brainstorm through?
I was going to ask if anyone, if you all have, basically, I guess, make youth advocates ambassadors of the sort that go to existing coalitions, existing meetings, that are quote unquote for youth, to get them involved in existing programs, or do you start everything from the ground up with youth-centered at the beginning, or do you try to work it? Does that make sense?
Like, do we leverage other existing resources?
Yes, and try to make them youth-centered instead of starting from scratch. Keep it the center beginning.
So helping inform their practice.
Yes, more so. In addition to, but.
Do you have an answer to that?
Because I'm not sure if my answer is like fitting your question or not, but I feel like in terms of like my work and the work of other youth advisors, as well as like the work of different youth advisory councils that I know of, is part of our work is always going to be like informing the stuff that's already been made that hasn't had youth input. And so some of that, and that doesn't mean that like that stuff that was made is bad or totally deficient or just needs to be thrown out, right? It means that we can still go in and inform things and give feedback, and that stuff can be changed. And that is going to be a really different process than, say, when me and Audra sit down and we go, okay, let's come up with this youth advisor collaborative we were talking about, and like starting out with like the purpose and all of those things and figuring out like what the community actually needs from this. That's going to be a really different process where the youth partnership was there to begin with. But I do think that you can do both at the same time. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, it definitely does.
Did you have a?
Yeah, I think we ground everything in positive youth development. So we are constantly traveling around the state training on this. And so when we show up, that's kind of our framework. So and I think, being a young person, I'm not including myself in that whatsoever. So being a young person that shows up into an environment, whether it's intentional or not, is challenging people's process. Because she's just who she is, and she's thinking how she's thinking, and she has this lens that the people around the table typically don't have. So I think just by default, she does that. Yeah.
I think it's kind of like when we first brought parents, people who were, way back when, it's like, what are we doing with this parent? It's kind of the same thing, but in a whole new perspective. So when people say, like, when we first got parents on in, we kind of, Title 5 or, AAP committee or whatever. But, providers are going to listen, like, wow, it's so important to listen to you, and I believe, same thing with you, and like you said, keep one step at a time, just keep moving forward.
Yeah. And repairing the environments too, because I know that was, like, if you think about historical family engagements, why is this parent so angry? Well, because they've been screwed for so long, that's why. And it's the same.
Nice, friendly, happy parents.
Right. Everyone knows that's a great idea. And so, how do we lay the groundwork so that the people who are in power currently can hear those voices? And that's both from capacity building on the youth advisor side, but equally, and I believe more so, on the side of the professionals.
you all, one thing I think about that we were talking about today earlier with folks from Hawaii was how does Colorado create different spaces and places, and how might the health department bring like health professionals into a place like something around dancing, like capoeira is a martial art and dance, or jiu-jitsu, which is happening in Colorado. And this idea that when it's brought into the new environment, whether it's dancing, singing, or martial art, doing art, that the playing field is different because the sport changes. And the idea isn't for them to talk necessarily about health, but for them to be in an environment and an atmosphere where, like I said earlier, the playing field is level. Because if they're learning capoeira, or they're learning something together, where they're both novices, then this idea of hierarchy of knowledge is diminished.
Yeah.
It doesn't, or it's just not valid in that sphere.
Right.
And so wondering how do policies allow for that, right? Health professionals to literally clock hours going to a dance or a flamenco or whatever the cultural thing is for that community, to where the young person and the adult are eye to eye now. Because they're both learning.
Yeah. It is an excellent point, and I'm like, I don't know how to answer that really, so I'm gonna defer to you first, and then then I'll try.
Yeah, and I think that, I don't know so much about the answer to that question specifically because, like, to be honest, we're not there yet. But I do think that the part about being accepting of, because right now, honestly, the part we're still at is that we're trying to get the young people to come to the adults, and I don't know, maybe you disagree, Audra. But I think that we're still at the point of the youth advisory model itself is like we're trying to pull people out of their communities to come in so that they can teach us about their communities. I can come in and talk about what rural youth in Colorado are experiencing. So we're not currently at the level of being able to go in and just have all these employees from the state go into the communities themselves and actually start working on the ground in partnership with them. This is like the first step towards trying to get to that place and saying we're going to try to form some sort of partnership and make it lasting with the young person to begin with, so that that person, like myself, can continue to be a stepping stone towards having more engagement. And I feel like part of that is, this was something I was thinking about earlier, is that I think engagement, like equity, it's a moving target. And you're not gonna, at least right now where we're standing, we're not gonna ever have enough engagement. We can't just be like, oh, I've got 2 youth advisors in the office, perfect, I'm engaging the community now. That's obviously not how it works. And so each time that you get to a point of being like, perfect, I have 1 partnership with a young person now, that's like your starting point. And that's where you can expand and keep going. I don't know if that answers your question.
It's cool. It makes me think about how do we bring that to the office space then?
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu, capoeira, everything that's mobile. You
Yeah.
can see anywhere.
So maybe it's almost like from the get-go, you just be very intentional, and you have people to like match them up with who's going to do some kind of training where they're both, like you said, novices, and then building that relationship from the get-go that way.
And integrate the conversations that Catherine was talking about, right? If they want to talk about something specific, you can integrate that into the facilitation.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's great. So one thing, and then I'll jump to you really quick. One thing that I was thinking is, number one, I think it has to be authentic to the young person. If capoeiras are jammed and they come and we figure out what that is. But I also think, at least, and feel free to push back, because this is where I feel like sometimes I've been at the department long enough that it's pulling me towards the bad side, the dark side, right? So, but for me, when before Catherine's cohort of youth advisors, when it was Encom and Leslie, I was very, very clear with them, this has to be successful. AKA, you have to be successful, because you are setting the stage for any future youth advisors. And so we have to be so strategic in where we step and how we step, so that the people because the majority of people thought it was a nice thing. Oh, maybe we're 100 members, that's so cute. We actually heard those things. And that's gonna be so great for that young person. And we were like, it's not great for them, it's great for us. We suck and we need help. And so, but they didn't want to hear that. So we needed to go, yes, it is good for them. And we're so excited and kind of placate that a little bit and then demonstrate success. So, this is specific to Youth Advisory Council, but when we had, I think we were the first state in the nation to call a public health outbreak on synthetic marijuana. And so, I don't even know what that means. I know what it means, but I got pulled into the office in a moment I didn't. And I was like, what do you mean a public health outbreak? And so they luckily we had a deputy director at the time who was like, I don't know what to do because the majority of people being impacted by synthetic marijuana were between the ages of like 16 and 29 or something. I can't remember what the data was. And she just said, I don't know what the right answer to do is, but I know sending out department communications like last saying, don't smoke synthetic marijuana on our CDPHE Facebook page is not going to reach the audience that we need to reach. And so what do we do? And so we had a lot of leaders being like, that's, you know, youth engagement is so cute, until that synthetic marijuana thing happened. And we said, okay, so we had, I mean, it was the quickest marketing campaign I think that's ever been pushed out of the department, at least ours. And we said, okay, we went to the Youth Advisory Council, and the benefit of having a really diverse Youth Advisory Council is we had young people on that council who had smoked spice, who had used synthetic marijuana that could say, this is, you saying that is not going to stop this. You saying, spice, beware, is going to scare off the kids that would never smoke spice in their entire life. And so we had real-time input, and because the campaign was successful in such a quick turnaround time, all of a sudden now our leadership was like, that engagement thing, let's partner with young people. And then started partnering, or talking about like the dance with youth advisors or young people in general. But we had to demonstrate that success first to silence their, whatever their thing was.
So what was the campaign?
Oh, I don't know. I should remember this. Let's wait till after the break and I'll try and remember it. So, okay. What other, oh, you had.
Oh, I was just saying the Mural project really, I think, was a good ground level collaboration because her talents, her intuitive components around art, what it was as she was the leader, and bringing community together, really kind of gave her anything. It looked like an equal playing field as the expert at the table on how to engage in visual perceptions and visual putting it out there, and then brought the community in through her expertise at the table. So I might have read it wrong because I didn't hear, but that to me that was a real authentic way of bringing the youth as a leader in the community out in a project.
Yeah, and I feel like that goes back to like the stepping stone metaphor that I used of like, by bringing, like if they didn't have Sedona, they wouldn't, like if they didn't have youth advisors, they wouldn't have been able to do that project because Sedona was a member of the communities that they were trying to reach. And so by hiring her and then giving her the creative freedom and the resources and the time and being able to take on this project, that's how she started being able to like widen the amount of community that was able to be interacting with the public health department in Denver and starting to change some of the culture. So obviously there's a long way to go, and that's why we need to start out by bringing in these young people who can work as paid employees, where it's literally my job to come to the health department and be like, this process that you're doing, it isn't working. Notice how there's no community members at this table. Why isn't that happening? What is with the culture that I can help you with to shift? So that more community members will be able to show up and will be able to start showing up in their spaces and not totally alienating them and dominating them, right? And so I think that's, yes, yeah.
I just wanted to say that the points you've been making about really authentic partnership and support of each other is just, I want to underline it. We did a project where we trained young people to be evaluators, to be the ones who do the scientific work that I normally do. But part of that wasn't just saying, go do research. It was like really meeting together and saying, what's the concern that you have? How can you study this? What's the data around it? Can we
that time, you know, the men were wearing jeans to the, so you could see the crack of their behinds. And we said, look, you gotta make the girls be more professional for this one time. You know, you wear that fashion all the time. Anyway, it was like even the tiny things like that would make,
Yeah, and I think too, like the idea of helping young people think critically, like, I mean, that's a skill, and I think we're gonna talk a little bit about skills, but, I think.
Yes, we are.
Like,
We are, it's
yeah. But critical thinking is something that helps us in life, period. So it's not this hard skill that's just good for public health, right? So it informs how they show up in the world. And I also think, just to challenge that a tiny bit, is that their job is not to always fit with us. Like, it's not always to not wear jeans. Like, NChem was 6'7", and this giant guy, or he still is. He's still giant. But I never required him to wear jeans. He could always wear sneakers, you know. So there's also this piece of how do we meet people where they're at, and recognizing too, from an equitable standpoint, what resources do they have to actually obtain some of those things, and or if they can't obtain them, if we're going to require it, we have to be able to fulfill those things. And I also think that in a professional environment, some of those things aren't needed. Now, with the board, there is this place that you can't prepare the board to hear young people, you know, if they're wearing something some way, that it is like getting young people to think critically that how is this going to impact your message, is it going to impact your message, etc. But I also think it takes a lot of work on our part to say jeans actually don't make or break somebody, actually at all. So.
Cool. I think this is actually the perfect time to stop and have our break. Not only timing-wise,